Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're getting into the weeds with Tee Legion TCG. It's this really cool blend of strategic golf concepts and, well, mythic battles, knights, dragons, the whole thing.
Right, and it looks simple on the surface, but the strategy runs deep.
Totally. And our mission today is to unpack the core structure, the foundation of it all, the battlefield.
Exactly, because the board isn't just, a playing area, it's structured.
Yeah.
Like a course. 4 distinct zones we need to talk about.
Okay, so those are the teeing ground, lance zone, relic zone, and the hazard zone, right?
That's them. And we'll show how that rhythm, from golf, tee off, fairway, maybe hit a hazard, get to the green, how that shapes the whole tactical flow here.
Before we jump into the zones, though, we need to nail down the language of the game, the core stats, because everything interacts through these, doesn't it?
Absolutely everything. These 4 stats basically define what a card is and what it can do. They're like the physics of the game world.
Okay, let's start with the big one, the one that decides if you win or lose. GP.
GP, yeah. Game points. Think of it like, well, it's your score, but it's also your knight's health or stamina. It's the bottom line.
Does it hit 0?
You're done. Your knight gets cut, that's the term, and you lose the match. Simple as that. So managing GP, protecting yours, and chipping away at your opponents, that's kind of the hidden resource game underneath everything else.
Right. Okay, so GP is the score health. What about actually hitting things?
That brings us to HD and DG. HD is hit damage. Pretty straightforward how hard your dragon, or sometimes your knight, actually strikes. Higher HD means more potential GP loss for the target.
And DG is the opposite.
Defense.
Essentially, yeah. Dragon Guard. It's the unit's toughness. When a strike lands, you compare the attacker's HD to the target's DG to figure out the actual GP damage. So building your deck, you're constantly balancing, do I want more hitting power, more HD, or more staying power, more DG?
Makes sense. And the last one ties it all back to the golf theme. YDS yards.
Oh, YDS. This one's really unique, I think. It's the dragon's distance identity. And it's not just flavor text.
How so? The printed YDS value on a dragon card strictly dictates which slot it can go into in the land zone. It's a hard rule.
So you can't just stick your big heavy-hitting dragon in a short-range slot.
Nope. A dragon built for, say, 300 yards, a driver type, is mechanically forbidden from the putter slot, the 0-50-yard one. YDS enforces that right club for the job idea from golf. It stops you from just loading up on generically good cards. Each slot has a purpose.
Okay, that makes the structure really important. Let's get onto that first zone then, the teeing ground, where the golfer starts their swing.
Exactly. The teeing ground is the knight's command post. It's a specific area on the board, and it's only for your knight avatar.
No dragons allowed, no relic.
Nothing else. It's the leader's private space, you could say. Their sanctuary.
And the knight themselves. They're not like other units, right? They stick around.
That's the permanence aspect. Your knight can't be destroyed or discarded or swapped out. They are your fixed point for the whole game.
But their GP can still go down.
Oh, absolutely. The knight is permanent, but their GP isn't. That GP pool is their stamina. If it hits 0, boom, cut condition, game over. Doesn't matter how many dragons you have left.
So they're safe, but also incredibly vulnerable.
Precisely. Physically untouchable in their zone, but their GP is the ultimate target. It creates this constant tension.
So how does the knight actually influence the game if they're just sitting there?
Through commands. The teeing ground is the command hub. Once per turn, you, as the knight, issue 1 command to 1 ready dragon in the lance zone.
What kind of commands?
Usually strike, defend, which gives a temporary DG boost, or activate, which triggers a special ability on that specific dragon. So the knight is always the general, directing the flow from the back.
Okay, but what if things go really bad? Like your whole lance zone gets wiped out. Does the knight just sit there?
Good question. That's when the last resort hitter rule kicks in. The knight really isn't meant to be the main attacker, but if the lance zone is completely empty of your dragons, the knight can make a strike.
Is it a powerful strike?
Usually not. It's often a sort of low HD chip shot, more about buying time, maybe hoping to draw a retrieval card next turn, than a real offensive threat. They lead, they don't brawl.
Strategically then, having this permanent knight, that's a big advantage, right? Stability.
Huge advantage. It's an unbreakable anchor. Guarantees you always have some presence, some way to issue a command next turn, assuming you can get a dragon out, even if you get totally board wiped.
Allows for buffering, maybe. Taking a GP hit for a bigger play.
Exactly. You can sometimes afford to take a small GP loss to play a powerful relic, knowing your command structure itself isn't going anywhere.
But that weakness, the GP vulnerability, that's always looming.
It's the sort of Damocles, yeah. The knight can't dodge, can't hide in a hazard if a strike is coming their way, unlike a dragon. Any GP damage that gets through, whether from an opponent or, crucially, from their own dragon messing up.
Wait, your own dragon hitting a hazard can hurt your knight's GP?
Yep. That's the knight-to-dragon bond penalty. If one of your commanded dragons really flubs a shot and ends up in the rough or water, the knight often takes a direct GP hit. It represents, the cost of failure, loss of control.
Wow. Okay, so the leader delegates the risky shots, but pays a price if it goes wrong.
That's the core risk model. Beautifully clean, really.
And this risk tolerance, it's baked into the factions, right? Even from the teeing ground.
Right from the start. Look at the Slice Fang Knights. They're all about aggression, taking risks. Their commands might let a dragon hit harder, but cost the knight some GP directly, or increase the chance of hitting a hazard. Living on the edge versus the Iron Resolve Knights. Much more defensive, disciplined.
Yeah.
Their commands are often about restoring their own GP, or maybe absorbing some damage, heading towards a dragon. They act as that stabilizing force for the whole legion. Your faction choice really defines your strategic approach, starting right there.
Okay, so the knight gives the command, the action shifts to the lance zone, the fairway.
The main stage, the lance zone is where the dragons do their work, and it's structured like the clubs in a golf bag.
Governed by that YDS stat you mentioned.
Entirely. YDS-driven legality is the rule here. When you summon a dragon, you must place it in the lance zone slot, matching its printed YDS range. No exceptions.
Keeps the golf feel intact, can't use a driver off the green.
Exactly that. Stops you using a 300 YDS monster for a 50 YDS tap-in. Let's quickly run through those slots because their ranges define their roles.
Okay. Shortest range first.
That's the putter, P slot, 0 to 50 YDS. These dragons are usually defensive. Low HT, maybe high DG, good for holding a spot or getting in a final little poke. Stabilizers.
Then the wedges.
2 key ones. Sand wedge, SW, 60 to 100 YDS. These guys often interact with hazards, especially the bunker. Abilities that trigger when entering or leaving sand. Real specialist tools.
And the pitching wedge.
Pitching wedge, PW, 110 to 140 YDS. More of a utility slot. Balanced stats usually. Good for maintaining tempo, flexible responses.
All right, moving up. The irons. The core of the game.
Pretty much. This is your mid-range. You've got 9 iron, 150, 170 YDS, 7 iron, 180, 200 YDS, and 5 iron, 210, 230 YDS. These slots are home to your standard par 3, par 4 dragons. The real workhorses.
Any standouts there?
The 7 iron slot is often seen as really competitive. Lots of strong, aggressive mid-range dragons live there. Lots of action happens around that 180, 200 YDS mark.
Then we bridge the gap to the big hitters.
Yeah, with a 4 hybrid,
Yeah.
4H, that's 240 to 270 YDS. It's that transition zone. If you don't draw your 5 iron, maybe the 4 hybrid keeps the pressure on.
Leading up to the driver.
The driver, D, or 1W slot, 280 YDS and up. This is where the big boys live. Your heavy-hitting par 4 dragons, and especially the massive par 5 boss dragons. The game enders often come from here. High HD, big threats.
That YDS slotting is super strict then. But what happens if a dragon's YDS changes during play? Like if a relic buffs it or an effect lowers it?
Great point. Let's say you have a 280 YDS driver dragon. It's legally in the driver slot. Now, maybe an effect temporarily drops its YDS to 260.
So it's now technically in the wrong slot. Does it move down to the 4H slot?
No. And this is critical. It stays put physically in the driver slot it was summoned to. But the rule is, while its YDS is outside the legal band for that slot, it cannot strike.
It just sits there, useless offensively.
Until its YDS gets back into the legal range for that driver slot, yes. It can still be targeted, still is DG, it just can't attack.
Why not just let it move? Seems complicated.
Prevent shenanigans, basically. If dragons could just slide between slots based on temporary buffs or debuffs, you could game the system. You could, use effects to temporarily lower a massive par 5 dragon's YDS, just enough to let it take cheap shots from a mid-iron slot. That would break the whole club identity thing.
So the penalty staying put but losing your attack forces you to manage those YDS changes really carefully.
Exactly. Slot discipline is key. Otherwise, you waste turns, lose offensive power.
Okay, so dragons are the main hitters. They line up by YDS, they roll to strike. But that roll isn't always safe, is it? The lance zone is unstable.
Highly unstable. That's where the risk comes in. Every time a dragon makes that strike roll, which is a single 6-sided die, a d6, there's a chance it goes wrong.
The hazards.
Yep. On the strike roll, specifically the shot-shaped roll component we'll detail later, rolls 4, 5, or 6 generally mean trouble. The dragon can be instantly yanked off the fairway, off the lance zone,
And somewhere.
into the hazard zone. So you might have the perfect setup. Your best 7-iron dragon ready to go, roll poorly, and suddenly it's gone. Stuck in the rough or the bunker. Huge tempo swing.
And getting them back, you mentioned it costs you.
It always costs you, one way or another, unless you have a very specific effect. When you retrieve a dragon from a hazard, it comes back to its original slot. But it comes back exhausted.
Meaning?
Meaning it can't strike the turn it returns, fills the slot, stabilizes your board presence a bit, but offers no offensive power that turn.
So retrieving a dragon really costs you 2 turns of its attacks. The turn you spend getting it back, and the turn it sits there exhausted.
Pretty much, yeah. It's a major tempo hit. Hazard recovery is never free. It's designed to be a significant setback.
Okay, that flows perfectly into the hazard zone itself, the place you don't want your dragons to end up. This is where the golf course, hazards, sand, rough, water OB become real game mechanics.
Right. The hazard zone usually sits visually below the lamp zone on the board. And entry is almost always triggered by those bad strike roll outcomes, the 4, 5, or 6.
Let's break down the different areas within it. What happens on a 4?
A roll of 4, typically a hook result on the shot-shaped roll, usually sends the dragon to the bunker. Sand trap. This is generally the mildest hazard.
What kind of penalties are we talking?
Mostly stat reductions. Things like a temporary drop in DG or HD makes the dragon weaker, easier for the opponent to deal with if they strike it next turn. Retrieving from the bunker is usually the easiest, but still costs you that action and results in the exhausted status.
Okay, what about a 5? The slice.
A 5 usually means the rough. Deeper trouble. The penalties here are often mixed. You might take a direct GP hit to your knight, plus the dragon gets a stat penalty. Being in the rough definitely slows you down more than the bunker.
And then the dreaded 6, the shank.
Yeah, a 6 is where things get really dicey. This often risks sending the dragon into water. The penalties here are severe.
Like what?
Could be skipping your next turn, a big chunk of GP loss for the knight, maybe heavy penalties to multiple stats on the dragon, and critically, for some powerful dragons, especially par 4s or 5s, landing in water might trigger a further check.
A check for?
OB, out of bounds.
Okay, that sounds final.
It is final. OB is the point of no return. It's the graveyard for dragons. If a dragon is sent out of bounds either directly by an effect or by failing that check after hitting water, it's removed from the game. Permanently.
Wow, so no retrieval possible.
None whatsoever. This is the ultimate risk, especially when you're using those high YDS, high HD par 5 dragons. Is the massive damage potential worth the risk that one bad roll, a 6, could lead to OB and losing that key piece forever? That's a core strategic question.
So retrieval is possible from bunker, rough, and water, just not OB. But you said it follows a cost structure.
Always. There's a universal hazard retrieval cost table in the rules. Now, specific cards, relics, or knight abilities might let you bend those rules slightly, maybe pay less GP, or retrieve as a side effect of something else.
Like the Iron Resolve Knight, maybe getting a cheap bunker retrieval.
Exactly. Or the Slice Fang Knight might have a risky way to pull from water. But the baseline cost is always there. It's designed so retrieval is never just a free action. It costs resources, tempo, something.
Let's connect this back to the die roll that causes it. The shot shape roll. This isn't just 1-6, good to bad, is it? The numbers mean specific things.
Very specific things tied to golf physics. Let's look at the bad ones again. Roll a 4, that's a hook.
No.
You overswung. Mechanically, that often means a temporary increase in YDS, like plus 150 YDS.
Yeah.
The ball went further than intended, but also a penalty to defense, maybe an escaped 100 DG. You gained distance, but became vulnerable.
Okay, a 5.
A 5 is a slice. The ball tails off weakly. Mechanically, this usually means a big loss in YDS, like negative 100 YDS, and a loss in power, negative 100 HD. You lose distance, lose impact, and end up in the rough. Weak hit.
And the 6, the shank?
The 6 is a shank. Total miss hit. Catastrophic failure. Huge YDS penalty, maybe negative 150 YDS, and it forces that critical hazard check. This check determines if you just land badly or if you actually plunge into the hazard zone proper, risking water, or that potential OB check for high-powered dragons.
Right, and just to loop back, the knight safe in the teeing ground still feels the pain of these bad rolls through GP loss, right?
Yes, through those knight-to-dragon bonds. When your dragon shanks it into the water, the knight losing GP isn't physical damage. It's the strategic cost loss of morale, the resources needed for retrieval, the sheer tactical setback. It forces the knight player to care about the quality of the strike, not just commanding attacks wildly. Every failure drains their own core resource.
Okay, so if the hazard zone is the punishment, the relic zone must be the the counterbalance, the toolkit.
That's a great way to put it, the Relic Zone. It sits behind the land zone, usually. And relics are your support cards. They are absolutely crucial.
They don't attack.
Never. Relics never strike. Their entire job is to modify the game state. They tweak the core stats, YDS, HD, DG, GP for your knight or dragons. And very importantly, they're your main way to interact with a hazard zone, your hazard safety net.
Without relics, the game might just spiral out of control from a couple of bad rolls.
It definitely could. Relics provide the tools to manage that variance, to recover, to adapt. They're divided into 5 subclasses, and understanding what each subclass does, and crucially what stats it focuses on, is key to using them right.
All right, let's dive into those subclasses. First up, gear relics.
Think of gear as the physical equipment. Better clubs, specialized armor, maybe different golf balls. Their focus is purely physical, YDS, HD, and DG. Raw output, distance control, protection.
And the key restriction.
The absolute key rule for gear: it never touches GP. You cannot use a gear relic to gain or recover game points. It enhances the physical aspects of the strike or the dragon, not the knight's overall stamina or score.
Keeps the theme tight. Okay, if gear is the equipment, what's swing relics?
Swing is about form, posture, rhythm, stability. So its main stat anchor is DG, Dragon Guard. It might also affect YDS a bit or have a minor interaction with GP representing the knight's composure maybe, but primarily swing relics are about making your dragons tougher, more consistent, less prone to defensive collapses.
Makes sense. Then course relics sound broader.
They are. Course relics represent the environment, the weather, overall team morale, tempo shifts. Their main anchor stat is GP, game points. They might also link to YDS or DG.
So this is where you look if you need to recover GP.
Primarily, yes. Course relics, and one other subclass we'll get to, but course is focused on that strategic level, managing your GP buffer, maybe affecting the conditions of play. It's the trade-off. Need raw power, use gear, need stamina or tempo control. Look at course, but you sacrifice that raw stat boost from gear.
Okay, number 4, technique relics. These sound like clutch plays.
Exactly. Instant effects, risky maneuvers, high-impact moments. Technique relics usually focus on HD and YDS, sudden bursts of power or distance, maybe tricky counterplays.
And they have special role with hazards.
They do. Technique relics are unique because they are the only type that can attempt par 5 retrievals, getting back those massive boss dragons from a hazard.
That sounds incredibly powerful. What's the catch?
Huge risk. If you use a technique relic to try and retrieve that par 5 dragon, and the required die roll fails, often needing you to avoid rolling a 6, technique relics carry the highest chance of an OB fail state.
Meaning the retrieval itself could send the dragon out of bounds.
Precisely. You gamble big to get your biggest piece back, but if you fail the roll, you might lose it permanently. High risk, high reward, defined.
Wow, okay. That contrasts sharply with the last subclass then. Caddy relics.
Totally different feel. Caddies are your support crew, your advisors. They focus on mitigating risk, managing variance. Their anchor stats are DG and GP.
So steady support, maybe small buffs, helping with consistency.
That's the idea. They offer the safest feel for recovery and support. Little DG boosts, maybe small GP recovery options. However, there's a hard limit.
What's that?
Cadgerics are capped. They can only retrieve dragons up to par 4. They can help you get back your standard workhorses, but they cannot perform that miracle recovery on your main par 5 boss dragon. That's reserved for the risky technique plays.
So caddy gives you stability, but technique gives you the potential game-winning recovery at a price.
Exactly. The choice of relic for retrieval really shows your risk tolerance.
When these relics do attempt a retrieval, how does that work? Is it automatic?
Never automatic. It's always gated by the dragon's par value, technique for par 5, caddy capped at par 4. And then you make a roll, usually that same 1d6 shot-shaped roll mechanic.
And the outcome depends on the roll.
Right. Roll well, 1, 2, or 3, you probably get the dragon back with maybe a small bonus. Roll poorly, 4, 5, or 6, you might get it back but with a penalty. Or the retrieval might fail entirely, or worse, trigger that OB state with technique.
And the flavor of the retrieval reflects the relic type.
It does. Gear might retrieve but force a trade-off, like the dragon comes back with lower HD. Technique is the big gamble, high ceiling, high risk. Caddy is safer, maybe gives a small DG boost on success, but has that par 4 ceiling. Every retrieval attempt is another calculated risk.
Okay, we've covered the zones, the stats, the key card types like dragons and relics. Let's tie it together with the actual flow of a turn and how those dice rolls really work.
The turn structure itself is designed to be pretty simple, right? Makes it accessible. You've got your start phase, then the knight issues a command, then the commanded dragon strikes, you resolve the outcome, and then the end phase. Start, command, strike, resolve, end.
Nice and clean, but the real meat is in that strike and resolve step. That's where the dice come in, and there are two main types of rolls we need to be clear on.
Yeah, two distinct roles govern most outcomes. First, for dragons, when they attack or when certain relics are used, it's the shot shape roll.
This is the one that models the golf swing itself. 1 is straight, 6 is shank.
Exactly. And the key here is the consistency of the results tied to the numbers. A 1 straight is always good. A 2 draw typically gives a controlled power boost, like plus 100 HD, plus 50 YDS. A 3 fade gives controlled finesse, maybe plus 100 DG, plus 50 YDS. These are your desired outcomes.
And the higher numbers are consistently bad.
Consistently, penalties and hazards. 4, hook. Overswing, maybe plus YDS but HDG into the bunker. 5, slice. Weak kit, day tree YDS, day D into the rough. 6, shank. Catastrophe, big YDS, hazard check, risky water OB. The feel is predictable, low numbers good, high numbers bad, with specific mechanical consequence.
Okay, that's the dragon's roll. Now the other one, the knight's strike roll. This one confuses people because the knight isn't usually attacking.
Right. Remember, the knight only strikes if the land zone is empty. So this roll isn't about their swing shape.
So what does it represent, and why do rolls 4-6 still seem to map to hazard-like consequences?
It represents the knight's personal impact on the situation and the prevailing wind state. It's more abstract. A low roll might mean calm winds or perfect impact, giving a bonus. A high roll, like a 4, 5, or 6, represents things like gusting winds or catastrophic misjudgment.
So if the knight rolls a 6, they don't physically go into the water hazard.
No, absolutely not. They stay in the teeing ground. But rolling that 6 might trigger a direct GP loss for the knight, or force them to discard cards from hand. It represents a major strategic setback, a morale collapse, a failure linked thematically to the worst hazard outcomes, but punished through resources, GP cards, rather than board position.
Ah, okay. So it maintains that core 1 to 6 design philosophy. 1 is best, 6 is worst across both role types, just applying the consequences differently.
Exactly. It makes the dice feel consistent. Whether it's a dragon striking, or the knight making a last stand, or a relic being activated, you know that rolling high is always risky, rolling low is generally beneficial. The strategic game is then about manipulating things to mitigate those high rolls, or capitalize on the low ones.
Let's bring the factions back in one last time to see how this plays out in their command style, reflecting their philosophy on risk.
Good idea. Take the Swicefang Knight again. Pure gamblers. If they command a dragon, and maybe a bad roll happens related to that command, like a specific knight ability check, a roll of 6 might be brutal. Dragon goes straight to water, and the knight has to roll again to see if it's OB. High chaos potential.
For the upside.
If they roll low, like a 1 or 2 on that same check, the command might grant the dragon a massive temporary boost to YDS or HD. Huge payoff potential, but always flirting with disaster.
Contrasting with the Iron Resolve Knight.
Totally different. Measured, controlled failure. Maybe if they roll a 4 during their command phase related to a hazard interaction, their ability lets them pull a dragon from the bunker for free, ignoring the cost. Discipline in action.
And if they roll a 6, still catastrophic.
The outcome might still be bad for the dragon, maybe it still goes to a hazard, but the Iron Resolve Knight's ability might trigger alongside it, perhaps restoring plus 100 GP to the knight themselves. They suffer the tactical loss on the board, but their discipline helps them absorb the blow personally, buffering their core vulnerability.
It really shows how the knight's philosophy ripples across the whole battlefield, influencing how they command and react to risk.
It connects all the zones, all the mechanics. The rigid structure forces golf logic, but the command and relic systems allow for deep TCG strategy within that structure.
So let's recap the zones one last time. The teeing ground. That's your permanent leader, your command post, the anchor managing the all-important GP score.
Then the land zone, the fairway, the primary battleground, where Dragon Strike, governed strictly by YDS but inherently unstable due to the risk of hazards on every attack.
Followed by the hazard zone, the risk engine. Bunker, rough, water, OB, where bad rolls send dragons, draining tempo and resources, demanding careful recovery.
And finally, the Relic Zone, your strategic toolkit. Support cards that modify stats and, crucially, provide the means to manage hazards, each with its own stat focus and risk profile.
It really delivers on that core idea, using authentic golf logic, yardage bands, hazard management, club rolls to create genuinely deep strategic gameplay.
Absolutely. The constant trade-offs, the risk management baked into every die roll, it ensures the game is dynamic and tense.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, the listener, to ponder. We have the knight, safe but vulnerable in the teeing ground, holding the ultimate win condition, their GP. But the real power, the yardage gains, the big HD swings, that comes from the dragons in the highly unstable Lance Zone.
So the leader has to delegate the riskiest actions the dragon strikes to win. But every single one of those strikes carries the potential for catastrophic failure, like a shank into out of bounds, which could cripple their board state and maybe even cost them GP directly.
So the tension is, how much risk do you command from that safe teeing ground? How aggressive can you afford to be with your dragons, knowing that pushing too hard, one bad roll, could lead to unrecoverable losses and maybe even contribute to your own knight getting cut?
It's not just about hitting hard, it's about that calculated risk. Knowing when to push with your powerful tools and when to play safe to protect your commander, it's a fascinating balancing act. A battle of controlled aggression, you might say.